Okay, crafts. So, like I said, we are going to start doing lessons on perspective, and this is what I was talking about yesterday when I was showing the difference between something flat and something like a building that's going back in space. Again, those of you that have already taken 1-point perspective, which is what we're doing today, I posted the 2-point perspective lesson for the grade 10s. So I want those of you that took my grade 9 class and are confident in your skills to learn how to draw things in 2-point perspective. So please go ahead and watch that video. Okay. Oops, right in the wrong one. 1-point perspective. Okay, so 1-point perspective is probably the most useful drawing skill that we use in art because it's the most logical one, and we use this, we'll be talking about it when it comes to landscapes, but to start we're talking about architecture because it's the easiest way to get going. Okay, so in 1-point perspective, the thing to remember is no matter how complicated the drawings get, the steps, they always stay the same. So the first thing we're going to do, so we're just going to draw cubes for now. So this isn't part of the note, but just a reminder that when we were drawing cubes, we did this. We drew the square and we went like this, like this, like this, and like this, and like this. So what we were doing is this line, and this line, they were parallel. And that is the correct technique for if you're drawing something that's close to you, for example, like this eraser. However, if I'm drawing something like a train, it can't do that because it needs to look like it's closer and farther away. So my train, yeah, I'm just faking a train, is going to look something like this. And so what's happening is this line, and this line, they're all going to 1 point in the distance, hence the name 1-point perspective. Okay, so how do we do this? The first thing we're going to do is start with drawing the front of the object, so that still remains to be a square. For the note, I'm just going to freehand a lot of this stuff. When we start with the drawings, you can move on to ruler, but freehanding it's fine. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to draw this from above. So when we want to see something that we're looking down on it, we need to put the X up here. So the other thing is the X represents that 1 point. The point is right here in the middle of the X. If we were just to draw a dot like this, we're going to draw over top of it so many times we'll never see it again. So the 1 point is this X. Okay, so we start with the front of the object, which is a square. Step number 2, we're going to go from each of the corners to the X. So I'm going to go like this. Then I'm going to go like this. I can go from this corner. Nope, can't go from that corner. All right, step number 1, draw the front of the object. Step number 2, go to the X. Step number 3, you need to cut off the sides. So if the front goes straight up and down, the back goes straight up and down. If the front goes straight across, the back goes straight across. We are going to repeat these steps over and over and over again until everyone learns the skills and that you're capable of drawing what you would like. So don't worry about it. If you're a little confused, we're going to do it over and over again for a while. Okay, so in this case, we can see the top of the object, and this is called the bird's eye view. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to draw something as if we were looking at it from underneath. So step number 1, draw the front of the object. Step number 2 is go to the X. So this time we're going to put the X below the object so that we're going to see the underside of it. The other trick with perspective is you want to keep that X as far away from what you're drawing as you can. It's just a lot easier to draw. This time I'll do it with a ruler. It's up to you for the note, whether you use a straight edge or not. Okay, so step number 1, draw the front. Step number 2, go from the corner to the middle of that X, like that. Again, from the corner to the middle of the X. Can't do that corner unless it's an ice cube. From that corner to the X. Yep. Step number 1, we drew the front. Step number 2, go back to the X. Step number 3, cut off the sides. If the front goes straight up and down, the back goes straight up and down. If the front goes straight across, the back goes straight across. So in this case, we can see the bottom. That is called worm's eye view. Yes, I'm completely aware that worms do not have eyes. I did not make up the name. Check textbooks, that's what it's actually called. And the last view that I'm going to show you is called the human view. And this is the one that happens when the object is kind of right in front of your eyeballs, where you can't see the front and you can't see the back. And whenever you have that case, the X goes beside the object. So in this case, we're gonna start with the front of the object like we always do. And I'm gonna put the X beside it, again, as far away as I can get it. It's the same steps though. So step number 1, I drew the front. Step number 2, go from the corners. So go from the corner, right? Same thing, go from the corner. And the next step is cut off the sides. So the front goes straight up and down, the back goes straight up and down. And that's it. We only have the 2 sides in the human eye view. So at this point, let's just stop and write down those steps. Because we're almost done, I'm going to show you like 2 more things. How to find the middle stuff and how to do rounded things. But as we go through all these lessons, I want you to remember it's always the same steps. So step number 1 is draw the front of the object. And by front, I mean the side that you're looking at. So if you're looking at the side of a car, that is the front. Draw the front of the object. Step number 2, go to the X. So you're going from all your corners that you can. Step number 3, cut off the sides. And I keep saying the back is the same as the front. That'll become more important later when we're drawing. So the other thing just to remember, this was just the note, when we start to do the drawings of, we're gonna start with an outside of a building, and then we'll do an inside of a building, we'll do some furniture, things like that. We'll do, eventually I'll show you how to draw some trucks, a whole bunch of stuff. Just remember to start drawing really light, because a lot of this stuff's blocking lines. So at the end, I actually don't need any of these lines here, and you need to go back and erase them. I don't actually need any of these lines. In perspective, you do end up erasing a lot. So just remember as we continue on to keep the lines light until you know whether you need to keep them or not.